Keir Starmer was urged to return a £360,000 donation made by Dale Vince, who've had on the show a number of times, a wealthy climate change activist who also funds Just Stop Oil. And there are calls on him, including from the Prime Minister, to hand that money back on the basis that, well, you know, you're taking funding from an organisation, well, from someone who's funding an organisation which is really disrupting and breaking the law. And maybe this is why you're not speaking out so strongly on a lot of these issues. Do you think there's a big issue in terms of the funding that goes to everybody in Parliament? I know Sky News are doing a big report on this, along with Tortoise Media at the moment, where we need to have a little bit more openness and accountability for the extra big funds that do go into MPs' offices, particularly party leaders' offices.
I think so, especially when it comes to activists that, you know, their raison d'etre, their modus operandi is to be disruptive, is to break the law. Actually, that's the key thing. I don't think you can aspire to be Prime Minister and be taking money from people who see your cause and the cause of those people as in sync. That's not possible, I don't think.
OK, well, let's put this to Donnachadh Mccarthy, who's the climate columnist at The Independent. He joins us once again. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, look, you and I couldn't be on two further points on these issues in terms of the cause. Now, when it comes to, say, Just Stop Oil, they're getting funding. We know an awful lot of very wealthy people, very happy to fund a lot of these climate activists, even when they're breaking the law. Dale Vince has been on the show many times, and he's certainly justified this, and he was justifying it on Mike Graham's show as well. But should the man who wants to be our next Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, should he be taking money from somebody who is funding, well, you know, criminal activity by Just Stop Oil?
Well, you say that we are on opposite ends of everything that we discussed, Julia. That's not quite true. We actually do agree sometimes. And
When?
We might agree this morning on the fact that actually big money in politics is a problem. I have long said that. When I was Deputy Chair of the Liberal Democrats, I went to a lot of effort to try and make our donations transparent and to stop the practice of selling peerages. Should we have a Prime Minister, should we have a Leader of the Opposition who are selling peerages to donors for life places in our Parliament? Absolutely destroys and corrupts our democracy.
Oh, Donnachadh, I'm really worried that we're agreeing on this. This is really disturbing for me. I couldn't agree with you more.
Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously wrong about everything now.
No, well, what we will disagree with about, of course, is this particular issue about Dale Vince. Dale Vince, in my view, should be knighted for what he's doing, because actually what he's doing is supporting a group that is actually trying to advocate a policy that absolutely almost every single institution in the world says we should be doing, which is stop investing in new fossil
because there's so much money in that climate grifting, isn't there? Now, this is the thing.
No, sorry, actually, saying the United Nations and the International Energy Agency and Chatham House are making money out of climate change.
No, I'm just saying the amount of money that goes into this campaigning on this. Now, there's a difference between people. I've got no problem with people advocating things and saying, this is what I think the problem is. You know, your Greta Thunbergs and everything, and getting hysterical and wagging your finger and telling everyone, this is what the issue is, and this is what we need doing, and campaigning and standing for election. But that's not what Just Stop Oil do. It's not what Extinction Rebellion do, or all the other organisations in Britain. They don't even just do physical protests. A lot of the time they're doing illegal criminal activity, ruining other people's lives often, to basically bully and threaten. They've said, look, we don't want to persuade people. There's no point, because people aren't listening. So we're going to just basically, you know, demand. They use the word demand. We're going to demand action. In a democracy, that's not how it's supposed to work.
Well, sorry, every single political movement in history has made demands. It's what they do. Whether you're the suffragettes, the equal rights movement, or the climate movement.
I'm not having it. I'll never have it. Suffragettes didn't have a vote. And the civil rights movement were for people, again, who didn't have equal rights. Eco-activists like yourself are just as able to run for election. You've got the funding, you've got the money for it. You can protest, you can campaign, you can persuade.
Well, hang on.
You've got most of the British media on your side, for goodness sake. If you can't persuade the British people and the politicians of your case, maybe your case isn't very good.
Well, actually, Julia, what the problem is that every single public polling, every single major institution in the country, except the Tory party, the Barclays and British Petroleum, believe we must stop investing in new fossil fuels. So when you've a situation,
I don't know anyone who thinks that.
Well, actually look at the polling for Julia on this issue. The public supports renewable investments like Dale Vince, who's a major entrepreneur.
That's not the same thing. It's not. No, if you ask the public, are you worried about the environment? Should we do something about climate change? Everyone will say yes, 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 because they're inundated with information and propaganda on this. If you said to them, we're going to end investment in fossil fuels, and basically you're not going to be able to afford to heat your home or drive a car or go on holiday, your taxes are going to go up, and you may or may not have blackouts intermittently, and the economy will collapse because we won't be able to run many of our industries. They may not agree with your policy.
Well, you actually talk about propaganda, and just about everything you've just mentioned is actually gross propaganda that's propagated by the media. You talk about the media being on board. Actually, if you look at the Mail, the Sun, the Telegraph, talkTV, GB News, they're all anti-climate action. Why is that when the public supports it?
I'm anti-insane policies that will make people poorer in this country and around the world.
Agree that actually most of the British media opposes climate action. That's
BBC, Sky News, most of the newspapers, most of the establishment are fully signed up to it. Guardian, Mirror,
the Mail, the Sun,
Independent,
the Telegraph, GB News.
Come on.
Julia, we have a real problem where the oligarch media oppose climate action, and the British public support renewable energy. They support insulation to make people's bills cheaper. They support onshore wind, which is cheaper than offshore oil and gas.
Oh, onshore wind's great, as long as the wind's blowing. Donnachadh, we'll have to leave it there. You and I will never have enough time to do this, will we? But Donnachadh Mccarthy, we did have one note of agreement. Climate columnist at The Independent.